Today I'm trying every grilled cheese cooking method to find the best one. I even invented some new cooking methods that you're definitely going to want to see. This video has fire, explosions, and of course a ton of beautiful cheese pulls. Let's get into it and lay down some ground rules. Since this video is about the cooking method and not the grilled cheese sandwich, I'm trying to keep every sandwich as consistent as possible. For most of the cooking methods, I use sourdough bread because it's my favorite, but for a few of them, I had to use a soft bread like Wonder Bread, and you'll see why. The orange cheese you see me using is a homemade American cheese that I've been developing specifically for grilled cheese sandwiches, and I promise I'll share that recipe soon. The white cheese I'm using is Munster. I'm using it because it gives us amazing cheese pulls. We're making a total of 18 sandwiches in this video, so this isn't even half of them. I think it's time to get going. Let's start this off with a cooking method you should all be familiar with, just in a pan. This is how I cook grilled cheese in just about every one of my videos, and there's a good reason for that. This cooking method gives me a ton of control over the heat, so I can always make sure the sandwich turns out great. But one drawback is that it does sometimes take a while because you cook each side individually. And if you're not careful with your heat, you may end up toasting the outside before the cheese is actually melted. Yeah, Gordon, I'm looking at you. Don't pull a Gordon, melt your cheese. If you're like Gordon and sometimes have troubles melting your cheese, you can always use a panini press. Because the panini press heats the sandwich from the top and the bottom at the same time, it makes it super easy to melt the cheese through every time. And yes, this is the exact same panini press that I used to run my grilled cheese business out of my dorm room in college. Cooking method number 3 is on a grill. Yes, a grilled cheese. Since this is such a high heat cooking method, I was a little worried that I would burn the bread, but it actually turned out fine, which is surprising because the sandwich did catch on fire a couple times. If you needed to make a lot of grilled cheese at once and didn't have access to a large griddle, this is actually a pretty good option. And it even enhances the flavor by adding a little bit of a smoky element to it. Speaking of smoky, let's move on to cooking method number 4. In terms of heat, this is kind of the opposite of the grill because it is only a low heat cooking method, so I was worried the bread wouldn't toast. I let the sandwich smoke for about 20 minutes at 225 degrees, and it actually came out pretty crispy. Just listen. I was a bit disappointed because the sandwich only had a mild smoky flavor, so it's probably not worth pulling out your smoker just for this. This next cooking method is something I've always wanted to try. Alright, let's do this. You know, I think this would work a lot better if it was a cloudy day. This might take a little bit, so come back to me. While magnifying glass Tyler works on that, let's try something that you all suggested. I've been seeing a lot of comments of people saying they just microwave their grilled cheese sandwiches and there's no way this is good. But let's find out for sure. After just a minute, the cheese had fully melted, but I was a bit disappointed when I realized there was no cheese pull. I think what happened is all of the cheese melted out onto the plate, so there was basically nothing left inside the sandwich. And the bread was pretty soggy, so in my opinion, this is not an option if you're trying to make a grilled cheese sandwich. This next cooking method I've been meaning to try ever since I first saw a viral video claiming it was the best way to cook a grilled cheese sandwich. The original video I saw said to cook it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes, but I didn't realize that air fryers need to preheat, so mine ended up going for about 8 to 9 minutes. But I'm not complaining, this sandwich was incredibly crispy and the cheese pull was amazing. This might actually be the best method we've experienced so far. If you own an air fryer and know how to use it, unlike me, I would highly recommend that you give this one a shot next time you're making a grilled cheese sandwich. I wonder how many times I'm going to end up saying grilled cheese during this video. Somebody should count it up and let us know in the comments. Let's keep going because I promised you I invented some new cooking methods and I think it's time to introduce you to one. I call this method the Joyride. That did actually nothing. Well, it was fun though. Okay, so that one might have been a fail, but don't worry, I invented some other grilled cheese cooking methods that you're definitely going to want to see. Like grilled cheese on a stick. When you think of fall and campfires, you probably think of s'mores and roasting marshmallows on sticks. But I fell down the stairs when I was a child, so I think a little differently. And I've always wanted to make a grilled cheese on a stick. And this isn't just a gimmick either. If this actually works, this would be a huge hack for anybody who's camping. You won't need to bring any pots or pans, you'll be able to cook just right over the fire. I'm not even done yet, but just in terms of cooking experience, this has got to be up there as one of the best methods. Really crunchy. That's a success. But of course, I couldn't leave it there. I figured we've already got a fire going, let's try another cooking method. Hot rocks. I found some big rocks, put them in the fire, and I'm gonna cook over them. Simple, right? Well, I found out that hot rocks explode. Whoa! Okay, our cheese is fully melted. Let's remove this before any more rocks blow up. Oh, there goes another one. It's burnt on one side. There's more rocks blowing up. The cheese is melted. It's super hot. Okay. Okay, I'm backing up.
Abort. Oh, it's actually really good. There might be pieces of rocks in it. Yeah, that was a rock.
Okay, well, now you know not to do that, but let's talk about something that maybe you should do, and that is grilled cheese in a waffle maker. You're going to want to use a soft bread for this because you're going to need to really smash it into the waffle maker. When you think of it, this is kind of just like a different shaped panini press, and I really enjoyed it. It had a really good mix of crunchy and gooey cheese. The only drawback was that it did make a mess of the waffle maker. If you don't want to make a mess, this next method doesn't require any dishes. This is the hot iron cooking method. I think this might be the first time I've ever even used an iron. It feels fitting that it's with the grilled cheese though. I was super impressed that this actually toasted the bread. It wasn't great, but it worked. Now feels like a good time to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, me. Yeah, I'm sponsoring my own video. I've been designing some grilled cheese clothing for myself, and I decided to list it on my website so you could get some too. I've been getting some amazing feedback on this stuff, so I'm sure any grilled cheese lover in your life would love to have one. I mean, look, it ain't easy being cheesy. How relatable. You know who actually loves this merch? Magnifying Glass Tyler. We should probably check in on him. I have made no progress on actually cooking the grilled cheese, but I have looked at it a lot of times, and it's cool how big it makes it.
Wow.
Remember how I told you I fell down the stairs as a child? Yeah, sometimes that shows. For our next method, we are going to be trying sous vide. This method is most commonly used for steaks. What you do is you vacuum seal it up and then boil it until it's basically cooked and then sear the steak. This time I'm just doing the boiling part. This was an excellent way to melt the cheese, but it was a pretty soggy and floppy sandwich. I hope you're not getting bored because we've got 5 more cooking methods and these were some of my favorites. This is the steamed grilled cheese. Since there's absolutely no way that this sandwich comes out toasted at all, I was a bit worried that we'd have another soggy sandwich on our hands. Don't get me wrong, this was a pretty floppy sandwich, but it was perfectly soft in a good way. If you've ever had steamed buns, you know what I'm talking about. I thought that this texture would throw me off in the taste test, but it was actually fantastic. I could definitely see this as a valid cooking method. These were probably the most shocking results from any of our cooking methods so far. Since we've got the walkout, we might as well try a stir-fried grilled cheese. As you'd probably expect, the sandwiches fell apart all over the place and it was pretty much just fried bread. There were some small pieces of cheese in there, but it wasn't much. Unfortunately, these pretty much just tasted like vegetable oil. I think this is the worst method yet. Method 16 is a butane torch. Yeah, of course I have one of these. This is an amazing way to burn the outside of your bread and not cook the inside, which is not good. It did work great for melting the cheese, but this tasted like absolute garbage. This is even worse than the stir-fried one. Cooking method 17 is flambe. This is when you cover your food in a liquor and then light that on fire to burn off the alcohol. Usually you would only do this once, but once I knew I could do it, I went and did it about 15 more times. I mean, come on, it's flaming grilled cheese. Who doesn't love that? I was super impressed with the cheese pull on this one, but I was a little disappointed in the flavor. Don't get me wrong, it was fantastic, just like a normal pan-seared grilled cheese, but considering I ended up flambeing it so many times, I would have thought I would taste the whiskey a little bit. Now it's time for our final cooking method, the Schwarma grilled cheese. I bought a Schwarma machine just for this, and unfortunately the motor wasn't working, so I had to turn it by hand, but you get the idea. Build a giant tower of grilled cheese and shave off the outside as it cooks. Come on, you gotta admit, you're impressed that I was creative enough to come up with this. It tasted fantastic, but of course, it's not worth buying a whole shawarma machine for. Before you leave, please make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment and let me know what your favorite part of this video was. Oh, and remember to check out my merch, which is linked in the video description.